What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall market. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have big news coming out and we're getting very close to NIO's deliveries. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY and uninvested cash. The offer ends in just about 1 day from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. Looking at NIO, I like the fact that we have a nice double bottom that's forming here. And you also have to consider the fact that this structure is looking very symmetrical. So the right side is resembling the left side. And if that does end up being the case, that could be favoring some kind of bounce that could be coming. Now, whether or not that happens may depend on deliveries, which is going to be coming out in just a couple of days. So I'll be waiting to see what that leads to. But besides that, we'll be talking about other pieces of news. There was some news that came out that NIO's new low-cost Envoy L60 EV is getting a lot of popularity with their 20,000 deliveries in just about 100 days. That's a good piece of news because of the fact that demand is going to be increasing with that. And there's also this news right here about how NIO is expecting 72 to 75,000 deliveries in Q4 over 51,000 the next 2 months as well. So pretty big numbers. If you look at this, we're looking for one of the strongest quarters of all time and a very strong December to get those numbers up. So we'll see what ends up happening. We'll see if we get a 30,000 plus delivery month for the month of December to get up to those targets. I'm hoping that NIO meets those expectations and the share price sees a nice move because of that. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. So just keep that in mind. Don't forget that in October, right, 2024, we saw about 21,000 units being delivered. And for November, they also saw a very nice increase as well. So with two consecutive 20,000 plus months for October, November, the question is, can we see over 30,000 for December, an all-time high delivery month for them to surpass those numbers? It's always a possibility, and that's what we're going to be waiting for. Besides that, I didn't see anything else that was too crazy that's come out, but I'm going to be waiting to see. Goldman Sachs gave NIO a sell rating, so that's not really changing. The price-price ratio has been dipping just a bit, so we'll see how that ends up going. And finally, NIO's overall volume is at about 36 million. This is once again below average, so not too bad. And the heat map is showing that the majority of stocks were in the red. Nvda is kind of flat, but many of the others were still in the red despite that. There is this news right here that came out that the US Treasury says that its computers were hacked by a threat from China in a major incident. So it's very important news that's come out. I just want to say that this was making a lot of headlines, but new articles are coming out and saying that at this time there's no evidence indicating that the threat is continuing to access Treasury information. So we'll hope that that ends up being the case. When this news came out, the market did dip a bit, so we'll have to see if that continues to affect us tomorrow or not. Besides that, there's nothing coming out for earnings. And then for tomorrow, which is going to be the last day of the year, the last day of trading for the year, it's going to be very interesting to see what the market does. We are going to be looking at some housing data at 9 o'clock a.m. And besides that, it's all very minor. The fear and greed index is currently in the middle. We're approaching extreme fear right now. Momentum is also at extreme fear. And besides that, the put to call option ratio is at greed. So we'll just have to see what ends up happening here. But there's still a lot of fear present in the markets. As far as NIO goes, we have a very symmetrical looking structure. The left side is once again very similar to the right. So I do anticipate this could be dipping a bit lower to fill this gap down here at the 4.34 area. But I'm hoping we get a bounce and we try to make a nice comeback after that. If that ends up being the case, we could be looking for a move back up to 4.6 or above. And if not, it's going to be a little bit more bearish. So please keep that in mind, guys. We'll see what this leads to. We'll see if we get some kind of bounce. And we have to see if it could break past 4.55 to turn back up. I think that for tomorrow, we're expecting a move a little bit lower for the markets, which could drag NIO down to about 4.3 flat. Then we'll see if we get a bounce or not after that. So just watch that very closely, and we'll see how it goes from there. For others out there, we have SPY, we have a left shoulder here, we have a head and a right shoulder forming. We need to try to get back above 592, otherwise we favor downside. Looking at the setup, it's a very clear looking head and shoulders, and there's also like another head and shoulders forming with the right shoulder. So this is our right shoulder overall, right? If you look at the head and shoulders, but the right shoulder itself also has like a head and shoulders, which makes me suspect that there could be more downside coming. Unless we reclaim 592 to 595, the odds favor maybe a little bit of a push and then a dip lower, and we could be on our way back down towards 580 or so. So I could be looking for a bigger move down, especially because we're approaching the end of the year with tax harvesting and a bunch of other changes. There's going to be some like take profiting profit taking, excuse me, and other things like that that could lead to more downside. So I think the setup favors downside, and I think there's still a risk of that. If you look at Nvidia, for example, this kind of resembles an inverse cup and handle. I would love to see us try to hold 136.5. If not, it could be dumping to 135 or below. So be careful with this inverse cup and handle. Just know that we're forming lots and lots of these peaks. And I think that there's going to be a risk of downside towards the 135 or below area. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin is rejecting over and over again. We're not doing the best of job at holding above 94,000. We need to try to hold above that. Otherwise, we favor a move back down to 90,000 flat. So overall, this looks a bit more bearish to me. For ES, we look a little bit weaker. We are making lower highs, and we also have a left shoulder here ahead than a right shoulder. This could also be favoring a move back down to about 5,900. So I think this is looking more bearish, and we could be looking for a move back down to the 5,900 area. So please keep that in mind. For Tesla, unfortunately, we're barely holding 414. We got to hold this, or else we could be dumping to 410 and eventually 402. Unfortunately, Tesla could be approaching the much lower 400s. It's still showing weakness approaching deliveries. But don't worry too much. We'll see what happens with deliveries. That's going to be the next major catalyst. So we're waiting to see how this develops as time goes on. For NQ, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We're making lower highs right here. We have to try to hold above 21,500. Otherwise, we favor a move back down to about 21,250. The QQQ looks more bearish. We need to try to get it back above 520 than 523. Otherwise, I see this dumping to 511. If that fails us, we're going back down to 507. For Apple, we look a little weaker. If we can't hold 251, we're looking for a dip down to about 248. Netflix looks a little bit weaker. We tried to bounce only to reject, so this could be dipping to about 890 now. Palantir, not doing the best of jobs at holding 77. If it can't hold that, it's going to be favoring move back down to 75. The Russell's looking a little bit weaker. We need to try to get back above 222. Otherwise, we favor a move down to about 217. So also keep that in mind, guys. There is some weakness that is approaching. For coin, we look a bit more bearish. We need to try to get back above 273. Otherwise, this is favoring a move down to about the 240 area. For Amazon, we look weaker. I want to see it reclaim 224. If we can't do that tomorrow, it could pop a little bit and start dipping closer to about 217 than 215. We also have an inverse cup and handle on Meta. This could be dipping to about 589. If that fails us, we're looking for essentially 582. For Microsoft, there's a bit of a downtrend here. We have like a head and shoulders. I think it looks a little bit weaker as we have this imbalance down here. So we'll see if we reclaim 430 or not, but I think this is favoring a move down to about 422 or below. For Google, Google also has this head and shoulders. There happens to be a left shoulder here, a head and a right shoulder. If we can't hold above 192, we're going to be favoring a move back down towards 190 or below, down to like 188. So overall, I see weakness developing on these charts. The VIX is looking bullish, though. I believe it's going to be breaking past 20 very, very soon. So my view of the market is very simple. I anticipate that the market has more downside that's coming. We might see a little like pop that comes before it continues to fall, and that could drag things a lot lower. But for stocks like NIO and Tesla, even if there is more downside coming, whether we continue to move down depends on what happens with deliveries, which are going to be coming out on Thursday. So we'll see how deliveries go for NIO. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have a good rest of your day, and I'll be back very, very soon with another update tomorrow. Thank you, and peace out.